Okay, how to make a book. First, open PowerPoint, and then I like to set up my page. So go to Design, Slide Size, and Custom. And then I like to print mine like a regular paper. So my width will be 8.5 and height 11 for inches. This just really goes if you already had something on your page, if you'd want it to keep the same size or make it smaller. Right now, since we don't have anything on our page, it ultimately doesn't matter, but just go with ensure fit and then get rid of that. And then I have grid lines already on mine to just help me line things up. That's an optional thing for you. If you want, you can go into view, grid lines, it can be there or not. And then I would insert how I want my book to be. And then this is where some decisions can come in. If you want it to be front and back, if you want it to be foldable, lots of different choices. The easiest way would be to do single-sided. That way you just make your whole page, print it out, not worrying what the back is. It gets a little bit more complicated if you want it to be front and back because of how you have to cut and print and everything. So I'll show two different ways. First way is if you want it to just be single-sided. So you pick what size you want your book to be. For mine, I happen to like the size of about 5 inches tall and about 3.5 inches wide. So I did that by inserting shape, rectangle, put it on, and then you can sort of choose what size you want it to be by going into the format. That way you know exactly what it'll be. So I happen to like 5 by 3.5. I think that sort of has an appealing look. I'm not going to worry about where I put it so much right now. But then think about how I want the book to be. When you staple it, you're going to lose some of the edge. And so to make sure that I don't cover up that edge, I'm going to just make another one. So I'm going to, well, copy and paste another one. And I'm just going to make it a little bit bigger. Maybe about, doesn't need to quite be a full 1/2 inch bigger, but you can do a 1/2 inch. And I'm going to make that one just like a light gray. And I'm going to send it back. So it'll be behind. And so that'll sort of keep it so that it looks like I won't be doing it. You could keep it white. I just happen to like gray so that I visually know that I am not going to be putting anything in there when I'm putting in all my information. So that way there'll be that little bit of blank space. And then on my front one, shape fill, make sure you choose white and not no fill, because if you do no fill, it'll show the background one. But if you do white, it'll be like that. And so that can be our front page. I'm going to select both just because personal taste. I prefer to have it have a sort of a darker gray outline or even black, just so that when I'm printing or well, in cutting, it'll look okay and won't be as obvious if I don't cut perfectly along that line. And then just to make sure that I don't mess with it too much, right click and I'm going to group. And I'm going to group that whole thing. So that way, as I work, if I move something, it'll be just fine. So that's one page. And on this one, I can fit 4 pages. So I'm going to copy and paste 1, 2, 3, 4 times. And I'm going to put it out. And I'm going to have them be right up against each other. I know some people like the idea of having a little bit of a gap between them. I'm less of a fan of that because if I'm cutting, I'd prefer to cut one line along rather than have to cut on 2 sides. It just makes it a little bit easier to not have to worry about edges and cutting out every single page over and over and over. And so here, this already has right here 4 pages. And this style would work for if you are doing one-sided. So if you leave the back open, this would work for that. If you want to do double-sided, this layout will not work for that. So this is for, we're going to insert single-sided. Single-sided page. If you saw there, insert, same place the shapes, the words. Works just as well. So single-sided. And then page. And so like this could be your cover. And then we could have insert pages 1, 2, 3. There you go. And then as you make them each time, you can either press enter, delete the old ones, and then I like the idea of grouping. And so you can either select all by going over this way, but if you see that way, it selects everything, or you can select the big boxes by clicking once and then holding down Control and clicking each one individually. And then again, I like to group because I think grouping, keeping it together gets rid of a lot of the mistakes that can happen. Oh, the other important thing, then you can, so if you care, you can arrange and align so it's perfectly centered. I like to align center and align middle. That way you know it's perfectly centered in the page. And then you can, that way, Control copy, that whole thing. If you see it selected all 4 boxes, but not any of the titles that I put in. And then put it in there, Control V in. And you can continue on numbering your pages. For my book, just to help it keep it in mind for my orders, I numbered each bottom and then went in. So like, for example, I'd come back in and do 4, 5, 6, 7, and then I went in and filled in all my information just to make sure the order was how I wanted it to be and I didn't get confused. So again, all of this is for if you're doing single-sided. If you want to do double-sided, it's a little bit more complicated, but it's totally doable too. So I'll show here. Because you have to think about it as 2 slides at the same time, because one side will be your front, the other side will be your back. So if I take just this one, so you'd be making the same page size how you want it to be. So I have that one. I'm going to go ahead and group it. But now you have to think about how the pages print. And so how I printed mine, because I did do double-sided, I folded down this middle. So where the 0 is where I folded. So if you think about it, on one side is towards the front and the other side's, the staple will be in the middle. So therefore I'm going to copy and I'm going to paste, but that would fold incorrectly. There would be, I had my staples on each side. So then I have to rotate, which you can either turn, if you want to do it, you can either turn this way, and that works. The other option is if you are like this and it's perfectly upright and you just want it to flip, you can go to rotate, flip horizontal. Done. Bring it back up, line it back up. You can make sure that they're aligned by clicking them both and doing align top. Now they're the same. Then I'm going to select both again. That way I have my 4. And again, I always like to group them all to get rid of any mistakes, possible mistakes that could happen. So they're all grouped. And then by printing double-sided, you really want to make sure that they are perfectly in the center of a line. So now that I have all 4 together, I want them aligned center and aligned middle. And this will ensure when you're printing, it'll keep the lines perfect together. So then just copied and pasted that. So I have my 2 pages. So then you have to think about how it will print. So in this case, I'm going to have the top be my front. And so up here, the top right will actually be the cover. But then the back side of the cover, if you're printing it as on the long side printing, the back of the cover will actually be on the next slide on the left. And so I'll bring it over. So that one will actually be page 1. If you open it, it'll be on the left side of page 1. Then the next one will be page 2 on the right. And then back up top, next to the cover, will be page 3. And so they print. So 2 and 3 will print back to back, and then cover and page 1 will print back to back. If you're not sure about how that works, if you want to do it, I would highly recommend making it and then printing these 2 pages just numbered first, get a sense of how it works, how they go back and forth, and then you can continue on. But I highly recommend, if you're planning on printing front and back, to number everything first, test it out, make sure that it does everything how you want it to be, then go in and work and put in all of your information, and then you know it'll work after you've already tested it. So I just went through page 1, 2, 3, and then page 4 would be down here. Page 5 would be on this side. Then page 6. Then we'll go back up, and then you have page 7 right there. So that just showed how to do technically all 8 pages, but I called one the cover. And you just go through, print them how you want them to be. And then when you're done, you will cut out the horizontal and then the box around, and then fold in the middle. This would be if you want one side to be front, back, and then fold on the side. If you're wanting it to be where the front cover is also the back cover, that's a whole lot bigger thought process of how it would work. It would be doable, but you'd really have to think in terms of cover, back, page 1 to the last page, page 2 to the second to the last page, back and forth, which was a little bit more than thought process than I wanted to do, but that's totally doable as well. You just really have to number out your pages and know exactly how many pages you're going to end up wanting, versus just making it work. So it's a little complicated, but not too bad. And then when you're all set, you can just print, cut, staple, and you have a good front back paged book. And then once you put everything in, it's always fun to just add in colors, text boxes. So if that's my cover, you can go around and play around with how you want it to look. And then it's already bolded. And then you can always insert artwork in the background. I like different things. You can just put in different stuff. And fill different colors. Do medical. And then, yeah, just insert, put it in. This is pretty handy. And then how I made mine, I chose how I knew already how many boxes I wanted to make. If you put in a table, you can make it fit and work. So for example, if you're making it here, do that, make it how big you want. You can move it over. And then I like to personalize my design. So you can start off by having it black and white, and then if you select a whole page, you can personally shade how you want it to shade. And so it's completely up to you how you want it to look. I like that type of decision making over choosing their pre-selected, just because I like that amount of choice and I like to make mine color coded, and it just sort of made it more fun. And even within it, you can change around how you want it to look so that all of them are formatted the same way. Let's see. I think that's the bulk of things. I hope that helps. And then good luck making your books.